It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert. Glad you're joining us. We've got a power-packed show today. We're going to talk climate change and Hotel Louisville. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But first of all, I'd like to tell you that this program is all about the positive things going on at the University of Louisville. I know you've been hearing some negative stuff about U of L in the media, but this is all about our students, our faculty, community initiatives, and events. And as well as being heard on the radio, you can be seen now, or this show is being seen on Metro TV. That's Louisville Metro Government's Access channel. They've agreed to air some of our shows throughout the week. So we appreciate Mayor Fisher's administration and Metro TV Director Deb Harsmeyer for doing that. So welcome to those of you who are watching on Metro TV. Today we'll be talking with Edna Ross about a unique program and relationship that U of L has with Hotel Louisville and Wayside Christian Mission. You'll hear how U of L students, faculty, and staff are making a difference with Louisville's homeless population. But first, we're going to talk about climate change. It's a hot topic out there in politics, government, industry, everywhere you turn. Somebody has an opinion about climate change, and U of L has one of the foremost experts in the country on this topic. He's Keith Mountain. He's chairman of the Department of Geography and Geosciences. He's a climatologist with a specialty in glaciology and global climate change. Keith, I had no idea that glaciology was such a term.
No, there always is. There's always something out there.
Yeah.
And, it certainly is an important part of what we do as geoscientists and geologists.
All right. So that's Keith Mountain. You just heard from him. Thanks for coming on the show, by the way. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a wonderful opportunity to represent the university and certainly our department and certainly our area of academic interest.
All right. What's climate change?
Climate change is really it's a way of trying to understand and interpret the workings of our atmospheric system and how it impacts us. So we become very used to a given set of climate where rainfall occurs, where certain temperature patterns take place. It dictates the quality of life in many instances. It determines how we live, and so we depend essentially upon the existence of a certain type of climate. But the realities are that over periods of time, the climate change shifts on a natural basis and moves to warmer temperatures and now colder temperatures and such like. So if the simplest manifestation of that is in the last 800,000 years, we've had many major glacial cycles. So we're really interested in what causes these big glacial cycles and what generates an interglacial period such as we're in right now, and how we as human beings impact that. So climate change is a way of understanding the normal variations in climate and whether or not the role that we are playing as human agent of this climate.
Well, of course, politically speaking, the question is, do humans play any role in this? So you've done some research. Well, I'll tell you what, let's back up a little bit. Why don't we talk a little bit about your research, what you do going around the world, and what you do to try and figure out how this climate change and these cycles happen?
Well, it's certainly a fascinating area of study. I got interested in it many years ago when I was a graduate student at the University of Oregon. We worked on the glacial sequences in the Cascade Range in Oregon. And these glaciers were retreating very, very rapidly. And we were interested as to why that was so. But at that time, the science was fairly primitive. And what we do know is that glaciers are part of this big picture of moisture cycles in the atmosphere. And they respond to changes in the atmosphere in a way that is very predictable and actually very quite simple. If it gets really cold and snows a lot, the glaciers advance. If it warms up or precipitation patterns change, the glaciers retreat. So we know that these are changes that are taking place in the big atmosphere. The thing we did not realize in the early years is just how much evidence is tied up in these ice cores. So now it's not just a matter of looking at how much snowfall fell, but how we reconstruct the temperature profiles. So we can look at pollen grains in it. We can look at non-soluble particles like dust.
So just to be clear, you take a big drill and drill down into these glaciers, right?
Right. So now, instead of just looking at where the margins are, where their positions are, and how they change over time, our objective is to go into glaciers all over the world, as many as we can, then drill down and look at the stratigraphic record the snowfall, the year by year accumulation that takes place. So the fascinating part about this is that things like snowfall, for example, we just think of it as a normal occurring event, but it's an atmospheric scavenging process. So it brings out pollen grains, it brings out dust, it records the temperature. So as we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the glacier, really what we're doing is extracting an ice core that we analyze, and it's just equivalent to a set of tree rings. The deeper you go into the tree, the older the tree is. So you can tell. And glaciers do exactly the same thing, Phil.
And you've been all over the world to do this, right? What are some of the countries and some of the places you've gone to do this core samples?
Initially, it was felt that the only type of really long-term climate record was in the big polar ice caps, Greenland and Antarctica. But we have, in the past 10, 15 years, been on expeditions in Peru, Bolivia, Tibet, Africa, worked up in Alaska, all of these places that have got glaciers. We don't think of glaciers as living in the tropics. Well, they are. You just got to go high enough. And we have some wonderful climate histories of in Peru and in Indonesia and such like that are telling us something really, really fundamental about how the global climate system works.
We're talking with Keith Mountain from the University of Louisville. He's a climatologist and a glaciologist, and he's in the Department of Geography and Geosciences, and we're talking about climate change. So again, from a political perspective, let's back up and talk just in general about the politics of climate change. You hear it all the time. Well, man is causing this climate change. There's global warming, which is a totally different term in my view. What do you say to folks who say, you know what, I don't think that the humans are having much interest or have much impact on climate change. It's all about it's the natural cycle.
First of all, they would be wrong. The reality.
Well, tell me what you really think.
The realities are we know there are natural cycles in the system, and we're able to work those out. Glaciers have given us a wonderful, detailed record in the last 800,000 years to see the changes and the extent of changes that occurs in a natural cycle. So we know those. The realities are in the last 50, 40, 30 years, what we've seen is an acceleration in the rate of this change and levels of various things that we haven't seen in the atmosphere in at least 800,000 years. So these would be carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur dioxides, nitrous oxides, all of these gases in the atmosphere that we know are anthropogenically human-generated that are now playing a role in moderating or changing the climate system. So it is a combination of both, and there is no question that we are, as humans, we have the capacity to modify the surface of the Earth. We certainly change the composition of the atmosphere. Therefore, we are an agent of climate change. Of that, there is no question.
And for folks who would say, well, the United States shouldn't worry about this because, they're using coal-fired plants in China. They're causing much more pollution. They're having much more impact. If there is climate change and global warming, it's on China and other parts of the world, not so much on the United States. We don't want our electric rates to go up by, getting rid of coal-fired plants and car emissions and that kind of thing. What do you say to that?
Well, there's certainly a role that everybody plays in this. One of the things about climate change and the agents that perhaps change it is that they are global in nature. We have an impact on the rest of the world. The rest of the world has an impact on us. The question is how we view it. Do we view it short term? Do we view it long time? Do we view it as an issue of environmental stewardship for a long term basis? And we're going to have to think about this very clearly. It's not only just changes that take place in the atmosphere and how we're modifying various gases in the atmosphere, but how we use land. There are lots of agents that are going to cause. So we build urban environments, we clear land, we irrigate areas, we change the surface of the Earth. Therefore, we're changing the climate in a great many ways. So, along with population growth and utilization of resources, we have to think about it. We have to spend some time about thinking about how the impact of this is going to work on a long-term basis.
All right, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. We're talking with Keith Mountain from the University of Louisville about climate change, and you're listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville.
This is our time to soar. We are an unstoppable force of innovation and academic excellence, solving the world's mysteries through research, stimulating growth in our community and beyond. and inspiring the next generation of leaders to build a better future for all of us. We are the University of Louisville. Watch us take flight.
Welcome back to UofL Today with Mark Hebert. We're talking with Keith Mountain, who is in the Department of Geography and Geosciences at the University of Louisville, and he's an expert on global climate change. Clearly, climate change is happening. Is it the same thing as global warming? Is every place on the globe warming, or are there some places that are just changing, getting colder, while other places are getting warmer?
I think one of the great mysteries of this really is how you perceive it. Do we look at it as a local issue? Do we look at it as a regional issue? Do we look at it as a hemispheric issue? Or do we look at it as a global issue? All of those really dictate your attitude and your opinions to it. I don't like to use the term global warming so much because it's become a polarizing term. Mm-hmm. People fall into one camp or the other. What I really see is a condition of environmental shift under which we currently observe global increases in temperature, changes in precipitation patterns, changes in the Arctic sea ice. One of the things we have to think about is that there is so much evidence of this. It's not just a climate issue. It's this evidence comes from tree rings. It comes from ocean sediments. We see this enormous convergence of evidence. But overall, we know a couple of very basic facts. One is that levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are higher now than they have been in the last 800,000 years. Levels of methane in the atmosphere are higher now than they have been in the last 800,000 years. Population has been more than it has ever been and growing rapidly. So what we have to think about is how we're going to survive or how we're going to deal with this and how we're going to function in this environmental change. And that's how I look at it. I just tend to see it as a particular time in period of environmental shifts such that our atmosphere is globally warming. Of that, there is no question. Now, there are a lot of regional variations. So, for example, the last year was the coldest that they experienced in the Northeast, and it's now the driest that they've had in California for the longest. It's warmer temperatures, lack of precipitation in the mountains there. They are extremes, even in the United States. But overall, last year was the warmest year globally on record.
And is that going to continue in your mind?
It's certainly got the potential to do that.
Should we be worried?
I think that we should take notice. I think that there are consequences to this. And
such as?
It's going to mean the biggest impact of climate change and environmental shifts will be on the most essential resource that humankind needs globally, water resources. Most places in Peru, for example, they get all of their water in through these very heavily populated areas, water that they need for irrigation, water that comes down out of the Andes into the coastal ranges, all comes from glaciers that are rapidly melting. And one of the issues in Peru is that now recognizing that these glaciers no longer acting as a storage of water, so they're now going to have to start to dam these. And what that does is flood a lot of ancestral ground. So there's a lot of political issues attached to this. Glaciers in the Himalayas that flow into central China and to Tibet, those water resources are becoming less and less. And it's also issues of water quality. There are longer range impacts, such as ocean level rise and such like. But the most immediate global impact will be on water resources.
All right, we only got about a minute left. So what should folks who are listening and watching this program, what should we do?
Well, I think that we have a responsibility to think about environmental stewardship. One of the great things about the university, and particularly I think our program and Louisville in general, and the University of Louisville, is that we've become very environmentally conscious. So whether or not we are able to change these things in very rapid in a dynamic that's going to have immediate impacts, what we really have to do is have an educated citizenry, people that are aware of the facts, that are able to look at distortions that may come their way, and to make up their own mind in terms of a critical thinking process. And if we have a broadly educated public, I think that's the first part, and I think that's the wonderful thing about the University of Louisville and really what our overall mission is here.
And I forgot to mention, if they want to hear Keith Mountain, you are going to be doing a program here shortly, aren't you?
The athletics,
A&S All-Stars?
A&S All-Stars prior to the football game. That's correct.
Okay, very good. So if you want to hear more. All right, Keith Mountain, always interesting. Always great to talk to you.
Always wonderful to represent the university.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, U of L's community outreach is working with Hotel Louisville and Wayside Christian Mission to better the lives of Louisville's homeless. We'll have a little story about that with Edna Ross. Coming up, you're listening to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville.
This is our time to soar. We are an unstoppable force of innovation and academic excellence, solving the world's mysteries through research, stimulating growth in our community and beyond, and inspiring the next generation of leaders to build a better future for all of us. We are the University of Louisville. Watch us take flight.
Welcome back to U of L Today with Mark Hebert. Again, glad you're joining us today. And our next guest is Edna Ross, who has, she's sort of a jack of all trades, or what, a Jackie of all trades, I suppose, at the University of Louisville. She's a psychology professor at U of L, and she, as I said, has her fingers in a lot of other stuff. One of those projects that Edna's dealing with is the university's work with Hotel Louisville and Louisville's homeless population. So welcome, Edna, first off.
Thank you.
So tell us about just the Hotel Louisville project. What is that, and how did you get involved in that?
Hotel Louisville is owned and operated by Wayside Christian Mission. I wanted to give some context first. Mm-hmm. And it is the only hotel in the world that is a fully functioning, open to the public hotel, as well as a training ground for homeless population. The homeless residents at Hotel Louisville learn hospitality skills. They learn how to deal with hotel management, et cetera, et cetera.
They run the hotel.
They run the hotel. And this came to my attention in 2011 when Dr. Tim Mosley, the president and CEO of Wayside Christian Mission, attended one of our critical thinking conferences that we hold annually at U of L. And he wanted to know how we could infuse critical thinking into the Hotel Louisville residents' environment. I began to think about a faculty and colleagues that I could call upon to do that, and that's how the whole thing got started.
So when was that? When did U of L start this relationship with Hotel Louisville?
In 2011.
2011. All right, so 5 years, or 4 years ago.
Okay. And right now, I think 90% of all U of L's units that make up the university are involved in some way at Hotel Louisville.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean when you say 90% of the units? The engineering school, the business school?
I'll just go down the list. It includes arts and sciences, and I want to come back to arts and sciences in a little bit.
Got plenty of time to talk about it.
Okay, arts and sciences, business, Brandeis School of Law, Kent School, Speed School, medicine, nursing, dental, IT, university libraries are involved. So that involves a lot of universities' units. Now, in arts and sciences, for example, we have psychology, my home department, and Laura Haynes' Resilient Families Project. And Laura actually teaches parenting skills at Hotel Louisville. And her undergraduate students assist her in doing this, okay? Then we have Cherie Wallace in political science. And her students have done evaluation of a number of 501k organizations in this area, and they nominated Hotel Louisville for the Office of Community Engagement Philanthropy Award. Mm-hmm. Then we have the art department. The art department is going to be doing murals at the new building on Jefferson Street. We also have, biology department is going to be a new partner.
What's the biology department been doing at a homeless hotel run by a bunch of homeless folks? What are they doing?
Dr. Linda Fuselier is going to start a growing power project there, where she's actually going to help the residents understand the connection between the food cycle and going to start developing areas down there where they can grow their own fruits and vegetables.
So on any given day, how many U of L students or faculty members or staff members are doing something with Hotel Louisville and Wayside Christian Mission?
Well, in any given day, someone from U of L is there.
Right.
Okay. Laura Haynes has offices there, for example. Nursing, dental, and medicine provide medical services for the population there. The nursing students also provide health education classes, smoking cessation, et cetera, et cetera. So the nursing students do this. Now we're talking about undergraduate students, and why is it important for undergraduate students to be involved? That's a part of our critical thinking initiative, our quality enhancement program for our SACS reaccreditation. And Hotel Louisville has, the outcome has been that they're our lab, actually, for students to get real world experience within the context of their discipline or their major. Okay, psychology students deal with psychology concepts, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, I was going to ask you that. What's, obviously, if you have students down there, they are learning in a real world environment, like you just said. What's the, that's obviously a benefit to the students, but for the University of Louisville as a whole, what is this commitment to Hotel Louisville? Why? How did this happen? And what's the benefit to U of L and to the community?
The benefit to U of L is that it gives our students a real world lab. And it gives our students an opportunity to exercise and hone their critical thinking skills with real world problems. It's really nice in classrooms where we give students problems, but we're defining the problems for them. In the real world, you have to understand what the problem is instead of just a symptom. And these students are being given the opportunity to actually think through complex situations that have no easy answers.
So we've got our fingers, U of L, meaning we, has the fingers in just about every facet of the operation at Hotel Louisville and in the lives of the folks who are living there.
Absolutely. My current project involves a collaboration with Speed School, Dr. Adele Imagrabi, CECS courses. His students are providing computer literacy courses right now for the Hotel Louisville residents. IT, and I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Priscilla Hancock. She's the Vice President and CIO of IT, has refurbished computers that we use at Wayside, and we established a Wayside computer lab at Hotel Louisville.
And how many people are there at Hotel Louisville at any given time that are homeless and living there, in addition to the folks who can go and rent a hotel room there?
I think the number 600 comes to me, men, women, and children.
Wow, that's a bunch of folks.
Well, it's 12 stories. It's a 12-story facility.
Yeah, for folks who don't know, where is Hotel Louisville?
Hotel Louisville's at 2nd and Broadway, and it's a former Holiday Inn.
Right.
And it's 12 stories, not some little, motel where we put homeless in for temporary shelter. It's a fully functioning hotel open to the public.
Right. They have good food, by the way. I go down there for lunch occasionally.
Yes.
And that lunch is prepared by the residents of the facility.
Yes. And they have a chef, a professional chef, but then the other employees are people who live there. Yes.
And when we get done, when U of L folks get done with a client, is it a situation where they're like the social worker, where they keep tabs on this family and they follow them through the process to make sure that they get the job training, they get the computer skills, they get everything? How does that work? Or is that all up to the folks at Wayside to keep track of all that?
That's all up for the folks at Wayside and their staff. And I do want to make sure that I emphasize that Kent School has been at Hotel Louisville and at Wayside Christian Mission for years and years and years and years. This is not a new project for them. For us in A&S, for us in Speed School, it's a new project. But social work has been there from the very beginning and provide the type of services you just mentioned.
And so what did they do? I mean, what did the social workers, I know you're not in the Kent School of Social Work, but you're certainly around Hotel Louisville. What did they do specifically in working with these families?
Well, they make sure they provide caseworkers. They make sure, that the residents are perhaps staying on track. Hotel Louisville has an excellent addiction recovery program, for example. And the addiction recovery program has various requirements. Hotel Louisville also house veterans. They house people who have special needs, and the social workers sort of keep tab with those that type of population.
What would you tell the citizens of Louisville, the taxpayers of Louisville, about what they're getting from the University of Louisville and this venture?
Well, one of the things that I'm really pleased with is the impact that teaching critical thinking skill sets, and the staff at Hotel Louisville have been trained by us here at UofL, and they teach critical thinking classes at Hotel Louisville. Now, one of the things that homelessness and poverty does for anyone is to diminish their self-efficacy, diminish their ability to feel that they can make good decisions or be independent. One of the women who took the critical thinking class, we have her on video saying that this class, the critical thinking class, has really enabled me to think that I have the right to ask questions. For example, always before I thought the experts knew which school my child should go to. So now I know, do I need the correct information? I need to know if my child is a good fit for that school, or more importantly, if that school is a good fit for my child. And that's the one thing that I got out of the critical thinking classes, is that I have the right to ask questions. I have the right to get information so that I can make a good decision and not depend on the experts to do that for me.
So this partnership, I assume the goal is to help folks come out of poverty, get them on their feet, and get an education, and move forward.
And one of the things that the Critical Thinking Initiative, which was the impetus for all of this, has also resulted in is that we are using instructional technologies at Hotel Louisville. We use clickers here on campus in classrooms. I contacted the clicker company that we use. They donated 70 clickers to Hotel Louisville. For us
what
to
are clickers?
Clickers are classroom response systems. They're like remotes where you can respond anonymously, and you get the histogram of everyone's responses. Well, Mark Miller, one of the caseworkers at Hotel Louisville, and I designed a study where we wanted to see if using clickers would allow the members of the addiction classes to be more honest in the process earlier on. Because one of the things with addiction recovery is that they cannot be a user, or they get kicked out. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to tend to admit that I have a craving, because that means I'm weak and I may be able to start using again. Right. So when they're in sessions, they don't want to say I have cravings. Right. Yes, but with clickers,
they can do it anonymously.
They can do it anonymously, and that is addressed immediately. And we've done several conference presentations on that. So the benefit to U of L is that the faculty also are fulfilling their roles as scholar teachers, because we're using these for publications and presentations.
Final words on this project?
Final words is that Hotel Louisville is a phenomenal operation, and that it's changing people's lives, our students' lives, and also the residents' lives.
All right, Edna Ross, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. All right, for those of you that are looking for something to do at the University of Louisville, a couple of events coming up. If you're interested in good music, the 2015 New Music Festival is scheduled for November 10th through the 15th. And if you dig politics like I do, U.S. Senator Tim Scott, the first black Republican U.S. Senator from the South since 1888, will be the guest speaker at an event sponsored by the McConnell Center on November 16th. You can find those events and others on U of L's web pages. And before we leave you, let's make you a little smarter. A Did You Know segment to make you just a tad smarter. Last week was Campus Sustainability Week at the University of Louisville, and one way U of L is reducing waste is by composting. Can't even say that word. One way U of L is reducing waste is by composting. Between 2010 and 2014, U of L composted more than 111 tons of food waste. That's a lot of food waste. That is a bunch of food waste. All right, well, thanks for joining us today. You've been listening to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville.